This week on Destiny Underground,
A million deaths are not enough for Master Rahul.
we're your hosts, Xaque,
And PB and ladies,
and let's start off this week by saying they fucking did it.
what did they do?
Well, that's spoilers. Got it? Alright, final warning. We got to see a Cabal wield the light. We got to see a non-human, awoken human robot, either of the three, wield the light, and it was fucking glorious.
It was pretty cool, and we're actually going to go into all of that a little bit farther on. But to start off every week, we're actually going to go and do a Guardian update. Just to kind of show you where we are as far as our power levels, our gear, what we like. And I'm going to go first because I don't have much to talk about because I'm still very poor and have quite a few blues. But luckily luckily Zur was kind enough to bless the poor chosen few who haven't been able to grind them out. Zur came this week, and I actually bought.
You do realize by saying that you bought something from Zur that you have had enough legendaries to get rid of to buy something from Zur?
Yeah, but I don't care about that. I zerned it, okay? I zerned it. I bought the Merciless, the fusion rifle that he was selling, and tell you the truth, because I went into PvP with it, not great with PvP, but for PvE, because it has the this what it's called is the conservative momentum. It's the actual exotic perk. It's got 8 rounds, and every time you land a consecutive round that doesn't kill, it actually charges up super fast. So it's got a really slow charge up time, which what doesn't make it great for PvP, because you're not going to be able to like consistently hit people. But for PvP, you're able to just like launch round after round after round, and then after you kill them, it's got this thing to where once you reload, you deal more damage. So it's got a really cool 1-2 punch that I'm excited to see if it's able to like continue being really good, because it's really good for me now, and I'm really excited about it. But apart from that, I've just been desolate, just completely wasted with blues. And I feel bad because I'm so ugly.
This is
so ugly.
An extra sour point for Rob because he cares so much what his Guardian looks like running around the social spaces of Destiny, and I can tell it's hurting him. I don't
have tower chic. I'm mad. I'm not fashionable.
I just want to go into it by saying I am really pleased with the way my Guardian looks right now, considering a hurricane destroyed my entire state this week and took my internet out, and I was playing on a hotspot with a strict net type, and it was not good. It was not a good time, but we're back on track now, and I have been using Cold Heart because we finished the campaign. Cold Heart is super fun, especially if you actually, that's not true. I was going to say if you pair it with the chest piece that makes your auto rifle recharge continuously, but I don't think I was actually using Cold Heart when I was using that gun. I thought I was, but I wasn't. But it's super fun because the longer you hold the beam of Cold Heart on a target, the more damage it does, and you like hear it wind up. So it gives you incentive to not stop shooting, and you just do a ton of damage on things. It's really fun to use. And for my primary, I've been using the Nameless Midnight, which is a scout rifle, and it has a good vertical recoil, which is good for somebody like me who rocked Hung Jury with max stability and gave up 8 bullets for it, or however many it was. I used the 16 round clip just so I can get max stability, so I've been feeling at home with that. I want to say I'm not going to keep using it, but it's so easy to use because it feels like Hung Jury that until I find something much more fun, I don't know that I'm going to change. I've also been using these exotic boots, and I can't remember the name of them right now. But they give you increased aerial maneuverability. So your Titan has the control of a Warlock, but not the shitty jump of a Warlock. So it's just good fun all around. And you can do so many things like glitch out of areas you're not supposed to glitch out of, which is my favorite thing to do. I'm light level 260, which isn't as high as I thought it was because the Nightfall was still something that wasn't fun, which we will definitely have to get into.
Yeah, I'm 248, and I've just been sucking wind because I have not had enough time to play as I really want to. But hopefully we'll be able to put in a little bit more time going forward. I know we laid down some predictions last week as far as the campaign, and we were actually able to get that done this week. Um, was there anything that actually surprised you about it?
Yeah, Ghaul wielded the light. I mean, I know I said that I thought he would, but I was being hopefully optimistic. I really didn't think he was going to wield the light. I was surprised that the speaker died.
Yeah, there really wasn't something that was super clear, like
Yeah.
at all.
Unless you find the investigation in the tower. Spoilers, you go back to the tower, you can find his room off to the, like, on the way to Hawthorne, and Ghost says they rebuilt it even though he's not around, but surely he won't be the last speaker, but Ghost doesn't sound so sure about that. And I was super surprised by the post-credits scene.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure what that was. Like, if you guys haven't seen already, what happens is that at the end of the game, like Gaul's wielding the light, and obviously we take him down after he goes through all the elements that Guardians are able to wield, and he shoots up this like astral projection and like taunts the Traveler, and the Traveler breaks the shield, the cage that the Cabal have put onto it, and it just shoots this massive like force of energy
Nobody taunts
out,
me, bitch.
this massive light, and as it's radiating out, like it shows you like one, a scale of the size of the area that we're having to deal with, but it just radiates out, and it goes from like our solar system to like the whole galaxy to like what is dark space beyond that. And there's this fleet of ships and ship architecture that we have never seen before, that looks like a combination of what I assume Vex ships would look like if they were
Yeah.
designed like Hive ships.
Yeah.
And they were just sitting there in dark space, and it came and hit them, and then they like almost lit up with it, like they were waiting, and then just turned in and just started slowly creeping towards it. And like the only thing I could think to say immediately was just, oh shit.
Did you get any, like, Zod feels from that?
The immediate thing that I thought of was like the Mass Effect, the Mass Effect analogy, the Mass Effect comparison, where like there's these beings out in dark space that are like waiting to like annihilate, and maybe they're the ones that are like going after the Traveler, or maybe this is like the race that like built the Traveler, and the Traveler like escaped. You know, like maybe the Traveler, because one thing you do get to see after the fight, now that you're in the tower, you can like kind of see into the Traveler. You can see all the debris
Yeah.
that's like floating
Uh,
around it, and it looks like a machine. It looks like something that actually has like cogs and gears, and it doesn't like,
There's structures inside of it.
yeah, like people and the Guardians specifically, our whole lore is built around this thing being sentient. And I really don't think it's sentient. Like it may be like half sentient or like an AI, but I don't think it's organically sentient. And my guess as to far as what those things are, they're the race that created the Traveler, and they're coming to get it back for whatever
Or,
reason.
I like what you said. They sent the Traveler out, and maybe even more than one Traveler, to, like, bring up these races so that they can come harvest them.
Or that, yeah, because I mean the amount of just sheer progression that the Traveler was able to do for both the Elixir, now the Fallen, and us, human race, was crazy in just a short amount of time. It's able to increase lifespans, increase wells of knowledge, terraform planets. So I mean, what it can do, as far as we know, is endless. And if my theory is anything close to correct, like if people were able to create that, imagine what they are.
Right.
Like the amount of power or terror they'd be able to bring down upon us, especially if we weren't even ready for the fucking Cabal.
Yeah, the Cabal just completely blindsided us, and they're just turtles, rhinos. It's interesting that you make the Mass Effect comparison, because one of BioWare's writers left and joined Bungie in between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 coming out.
Yeah, they might finally be able to get that dark energy ending
Yeah.
they really wanted to do, and scrapped for Mass Effect 3. But yeah, that whole ending scene was completely unexpected and just opened the doors for theory crafters everywhere.
I will say I was almost a little disappointed with the ending of the campaign because the boss fight with Ghaul, it kind of sucks. But up
It's
until
kind of a letdown.
yeah, up until that post-credit scene though, when they finally showed that, I was like, okay, they're giving us a clear, like, it's not over. Like, they're not just leaving us hanging on an unsatisfying ending. They gave us a gory, juicy cliffhanger that we get to bite our teeth into now. So I'm no longer disappointed. It completely made up for the terrible boss fight.
Yeah, I mean, from a mechanic standpoint, it was essentially what you get with Destiny. But I did like to see, from a lore standpoint, looking at it and what it means. It was interesting to see. It just wasn't like necessarily
He was too easy.
all that fun. Yeah, it wasn't necessarily all that fun to like play against, but like bringing down the campaign and like boiling it all down to like one instance or one fight isn't necessarily like,
Yeah, it's not fair.
it's not fair to what they did. And like it's as much about the journey getting there, the final mission, running through the city and like really getting to experience, because you never were able to like get into the city. Like, I remember I talked like extensively when we were doing this about like the influences on the architecture and like
Yeah.
the way that the colors were working and all that stuff. So I mean, they put a lot of effort into little things like that not necessarily all players would notice, but it was one of those things where as I was taking it in, you only get to do this once.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to take it all in and like notice everything. And I just, despite it being somewhat a letdown, like the experience there was more than worth it. The journey there was more than worth it.
And you can go back last week, I believe, when I said that walking away from the Traveler and traveling showed that it was Earth. And you being able to recognize different cultural influences in the architecture just shows that it's still a future of Earth. Earth isn't so futuristic that it feels alienated from what we know now today. So it also helps the world be more believable in that regard, that you can still pick out where they came from.
Yeah, I mean, it was just my favorite part. I mean, now that we've got it all down, probably was going through the city. But there are so many great parts, like the way that they were able to build, and Bungie has always been really good at this, was even going back to Halo, but building the world through things that aren't necessarily like strict exposition is something they've always been really good at. And this is something that they were really good at doing, just with the way that everything was designed, the encounters, stuff along those lines. So I mean, the experience was something to behold, something that we definitely never got in the first game.
I can attest to this too, because I've been recently replaying with Wesley since he just got on last night, and he's skipping all of the cutscenes, which it's killing me, but it's he doesn't care. He says, I get the gist of what's going on. But even with him skipping all of the cutscenes, so take the story out completely, and he's still like, man, they did a really good job designing this level. This looks really cool. Like, I really like what I'm looking at, and this area looks awesome, and they did such a good job with the level design. So even skipping all the story, coming from somebody who hasn't played any of it, so it's not just like us thinking the story's good and giving him more credit. Like, he still thinks it's good, and the world building is fantastic without any cutscenes.
Yeah, and for something to where you're going to spend so much time, you're only going to spend like, depending on how long it's going to take you, 6 to 8 to 10, maybe 4 to 10 hours, depending on what you're doing in the campaign. But you're going to be spending countless hours in the world. So I really do enjoy what they were able to do with the world when compared to Destiny 1. But yeah, I mean, just to cap it off, I really do. I think that like those beings or those enemies or whatever you want to call them out in dark space are probably going to be like the next major expansion, whenever that may be, probably this time next year, unfortunately. But it does leave me like, wanting to know more about this, and that's always good. And it does leave me like to say, oh, okay, so if they have this planned, then they must have something important planned for like this Osiris DLC that's coming up, or whatever's going to be launching in like springtime or February. So it creates a sense of enthusiasm and a sense of wanting more, which is exactly what you want to do from a game design standpoint and from a storytelling standpoint.
It gives them the ability to drop hints as to what's coming with the next 2 mini expansions. Also, they'll be able to maybe do more post-credit scenes, or maybe we'll get like a weird transmission and the Guardians won't know necessarily, but we'll know because we've seen that cutscene. We'll know that it's like hinting towards that. One thing I want to leave off in regards to the campaign is the final boss might be a bit of a letdown, but the mission before you get to the city is absolutely fantastic, and it's super fun. Like, you're on the Almighty next to the sun, and it's just burning you alive every time you go outside, and it looks absolutely fantastic from a visual standpoint, and it's super fun to play through.
Yeah, I mean, like, just the campaign is great. It felt like a Halo campaign, and Halo Bungie specifically, but Halo is what revolutionized first person shooters and what they could do with storytelling. So it makes sense for them to go back to somewhere in their roots and make something that felt both familiar to us but familiar to the world as well. So they did a great job, and they really knocked that out of the park. And calling it or drawing a comparison to the Halo campaign isn't bad in my opinion. It's a compliment, because that's the gold standard. Halo Combat Evolved, it set the standard.
It's the gold standard on console. I'm gonna have to, just because I know it's coming. I know it's coming in the comments that it's in Half-Life. Set the gold standard. Halo copied a lot from Half-Life, but it worked, so it's not like a bad thing. All artists steal. It's just what they do with it, whether or not they're great. So with that, do you want to go into what the weekly update is covered?
Yeah, I mean, they dropped the raid. Unfortunately, Ghaul is not the final boss. Sad face.
Yeah, I was hoping for another Oryx.
They also kind of went into little things as far as like trying to fix up PvP. Quick plays working just how they want it to. Competitive is a little bit still not working the way I wanted to, so they're going to drop another patch going on there. They go over some stuff as far as like creating clan mission statements, but the one thing that we both really wanted to touch on was this Kekistan thing, this issue with like this internet meme, this like alt-right, like white supremacist armor.
Is it even a meme when it's for a hate group anymore? Because meme is such a lighthearted term to me. It's a hate symbol now, for sure.
We could get into a whole thing about memes in general and where that comes from, and like what a meme is, because really a meme, all it is the spread of something cultural through. Yeah. So I mean, it's such a broad
by
thing.
Definition.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, to us, memes are different than what the actual meaning is. But yeah, I mean, this was like a huge thing for Destiny, and they actually expanded their normal like server maintenance time by multiple hours to try and actually patch out as much of this as they could, because they realized it and they were like, oh crap, we can't just do nothing about this,
Right. I really like the response on it, and what I like more than anything is they were like, okay, how did this happen? And instead of keeping that internal, they decided to let us know exactly how it happened. So it really helps. I mean, obviously shouldn't have been in the game in the first place if it's tied to that, but the fact that they admitted they made a mistake and they're taking the blame for it, and they found the cause of the problem so that they can avoid it in the future, I think that's a perfect way to handle something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to where like the amount of transparency that we're getting is something that I really admire from a company and from anything in general.
It also shows how fantastic their documentation must be. Their source code control is probably fantastic. They can go back to the date of the month of the year that armor piece was created.
But yeah, I mean, I think one thing I wanted to quote specifically was, I think we want everyone to know their identity is welcome in our studio and in the worlds we create. This isn't merely a platitude, but an official pillar we hold ourselves and our work to. It is also a clarion call for the type of people we want to bring in the studio and help us make better games. It's just one of those things where they saw it, they patched it out, they fixed it. And even looking at like the way the armor looked, like I could see how some of the symbology could have gotten mixed up, because even you said it, like the way that the armor looks, there's like a chevron with a straight line over the top of it, and that's kind of what shows
Right.
up both with like Cabal imagery, because it's very sharp, and with Guardian imagery when like you level up, because each time you level up, that something similar pops up on the screen.
Yeah,
So
it's like a double chevron with a line on the
yeah,
top or something.
they use a lot of that same type of imagery. So I mean, I could kind of see where they were, if it wasn't placed in there purposefully by anybody, how from a design standpoint, looking at the way they've created other things in Destiny and how they've used it, how you could have got something similar. But it is strikingly similar, and it's good that they didn't just like do nothing, that they just were like, all right, this is obviously bad,
Yeah.
let's kill this, like kill
It
this immediately.
it is super similar, but it also like I think it helps lend a little bit to the fact that it's also not a super complicated design. It's not like a very unique thing. Chevrons are everywhere. Chevrons and lines. So that could also, if you're just sitting in your room designing something, I could see something like that becoming close. I mean, it happens all the time.
Right. I think that's mainly the main thing we're talking about. But I just wanted to applaud them as far as that goes, and really say it took a lot of like balls to just come out and lay it all out there, and that kind of transparency is something that I really respect in with anybody, but with gaming in general.
Well, we've definitely got to talk about Trials of the Nine, because I haven't played PvP yet in Destiny 2. I know you've played some. I played in the beta, but I've only played the first two missions, or the required ones for Shaxx. Do you think we're going to make it to the lighthouse with the way
Us
PvP is now? Yeah. Should that be a goal for us as a clan?
We're gonna need to get. We're gonna need to be on our game. That's all I have to really.
We're going to
say.
need one of you listeners out there to Sherpa.
I don't necessarily need to Sherpa. I can hold my own, but I'm saying we're gonna need to be on our game. Luckily enough, it looks like they've made it slightly easier, because it's objective based game modes, or at least it was this week with the countdown game. So as long as you're like understanding how to play the game and how that game mode works and having good communication, I think almost anybody can make it. You didn't have to be like, 360 no scope pro master with like all the best gun and the best gear to like have a chance at making it to the lighthouse. Like, this is something that they've made it to where seemingly everybody with enough skill and with enough patience and whatnot, just a little bit of luck, might be able to make it, which at the same time might be to a detriment to the game, because they don't, it's a fine line between making something more accessible but making it too quote unquote casual. So it's something that we're gonna have to keep an eye on going forward.
It's definitely a personal goal of mine, since we never did it in the first Destiny. I feel like we could have. I was definitely holding us back there. A little, at least a little bit. I'm gonna take a little bit of credit, just a little bit. My KD was 0.67. But speaking on casual, that is the perfect time for us non-casual, hardcore Destiny 1 two-man Nightfall players to talk about Destiny 2's casual Nightfall.
Yeah, I mean, that Nightfall tells you that it's recommended, because we set our power levels, and I mean, 248's about where I was when we went in. A little bit lower. I was like 241, 242, and I mean, the difference isn't going to be massive, but I went in, it was like, you recommended 230, and I was like, or 240, and I was like, we can do this. Like, we're good.
Yeah.
We're fine. And we went in
with three people.
And somebody else, and we managed to make it to the Voss, but we ended up timing out because we just couldn't. The time mechanic that they added, because if you guys don't know or weren't around for when, because the Destiny or the Nightfalls in Destiny 1 went through multiple iterations, but they used to take you back to orbit if you died. Like, you go through, and if the whole team wipes, like, go to orbit, start again. Sucks to be
That's
you.
it. Just sit through that loading screen.
But here, I think they've taken a different standpoint or a different stance on this, to where they're like, they don't want somebody spending 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes doing, one thing just for like a couple of bad mistakes to happen, which I like. but at the same time, it feels like they're like, all right, now you got to rush. Now you almost got to be like over leveled to do this by adding this like time gate mechanic that you have to do. You have to, it's timed and it's counting down ever so often, and you have to run through these time gates and kill enemies and like continuously push forward, and it creates a level of stress that I didn't think I could have doing this, because like the layer of it's like if you die, like you could let the whole team down. Here it's like you don't even have time to think about dying.
Yeah,
Like if you die, I found myself getting more irritated at dying during this than I did dying before, because I was like, it'll be fine, just like wait it out, come over and revive me.
Yeah.
Here it's like I'm dying, and if you don't revive me, I'm gonna spend 30 seconds not killing enemies and like wasting the time that we had. So it was a completely different take on it, and I like it. It's just something that we're gonna definitely need to get used to.
Previously, the Nightfall was this thing that me and Rob went into Tuesday, and we're like, yay, 9 strange coins. Now the Nightfall is this thing that we have to mentally prepare for and like stretch our fingers out and go southpaw to really get in there and finish for gear, which as long as I get good rewards will be worth it. But if they drop 9 legendary shards, I'm not going to be too happy about it.
No, I mean, from what I hear, the Nightfall gear is consistently better. Like gear dropping is just better across the board. Seems like something they've definitely fixed, and it's something that they've implemented with the clan rewards, and that's good because like you can get the clan rewards, but they drop at like 10 light, so you still have to infuse. So you're not like just like getting rewards and like beefing up because you know you have other people in the clan that are doing things. So that's good. But yeah, I mean, just our first test with the Nightfall, because the first thing that we did once we finished the campaign, we're like, we got to get the Nightfall level, and then we're just gonna like run in there and do it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like we went in and did it. We were just like, okay, well, I mean, that happened. We just have to take a step back and reassess this right here.
We started, and I was like, there's a time limit. I was like, all right, so we just run through all the enemies, and then I just died immediately. I was like, okay, so we have 11 minutes to kill all of the enemies and this boss that takes 11 minutes to kill.
Yeah, the amount of added strategy that the time gates add, and like the couple other things that they have, where this week
constantly changing,
it was
damage types.
Yeah, where instead in Destiny 1 it was like this week is solar, so everybody would just like beef up on solar and like run through the thing. But like
no, that's not accurate. Destiny 1, it's this week is solar, and you no longer have solar primaries.
You know what I meant. But yeah, I mean, adding that like rotation of I guess elemental damage kind of makes you have to like think about your loadout and think about your subclass and how you're having that set up, and how you have your other people set up too. So you have to like come in with a group and say like, I have this and this is what I'm going to be doing. What are you going to be doing? So like all of you can be doing damage at the proper times. So it adds a level of teamwork that just really wasn't there in Destiny 1, and that's actually something that I'm looking forward to with the raid, because with stuff like that they're doing with this, to where like they can have an added layer of like energy weapons do this, where they blow up the shields with proper damage on point, or you know, some enemies drop power ammo or power weapons all the time. The amount of, I guess, like dedication and teamwork that you're going to have to be doing in the raid is going to be enormous from what I imagine. And we haven't looked up anything as far as the raid. We like to go blind. Unfortunately, did not get that week 1 clear like we wanted. Just weren't able to get up there in light with Hurricane Irma and my busy work and life schedule.
It's also worth saying we didn't necessarily want to either rush through the game so quickly, because previously in Destiny 1, I believe the first raid dropped 3 weeks after the game came out.
A very long time. Like it was like multiple weeks, I remember.
Because I mean, it's the base game, so I know after we finish the raid, we're not really going to have much left to do. So I'm okay with missing week 1 clear, since week 1 was week 1 and not week 3 or 4. But for the raid, I really want to see, because it's not directed by Luke Smith, who did Vault of Glass, and Vault of Glass is still my favorite. Um, I want to see what their version of a raid is. I don't know if we've gotten this director on a raid before. I didn't fact check that, but if we haven't, I want to see what they think a Destiny raid should be.
Yeah, and I mean, huge shout out to the legend himself for actually getting that first clear. I didn't watch anything about the raid, but I did watch the Bungie team watching the raid. And like them cheering on like the different peoples in the stream, and that's always fun. It's like getting to watch your favorite sports team or like esports player or like anybody that you really root for, like Twitch streamer, like Excel, and they were just having so much fun with it. And I'm glad that like everybody in the community, whether it be the devs or the players or anything like that, gets this much enjoyment out of playing the game. It's really great to watch.
So we know that they watch streamers, and they probably have favorites. Do you think when they're designing the raid, they're like, I'm going to put this in here specifically to fuck with this guy?
I be very rude. I wouldn't think so. The amount of time and resources,
Like, just to
that would
watch
take.
him, like, just because, that's, like, you do that kind of stuff with your friends, like, if you're going to make something just because you want to see how they react to it. I wonder if they do things like that. Or when they're internally testing it, they just, like, know that Bob down the hall really hates, like, snipers, so they make a boss that only gets damaged by snipers just for the test. They're not like an actual raid, but just for his build.
Because we haven't looked into anything as far as the raid goes. I don't know if I have necessarily any like hard line predictions, but I do have things that I like want to come out of it, and I don't think we're necessarily going to get anything as far as what I want out of it, because I would like more like story or more lore or like slightly more exposition as far as that goes, because I've been looking more into like Destiny 1 lore, Destiny lore in general, and the Taken King, the King's Fall raid takes on such a different feel if you know what you're doing and know what's happening with that. And I found it really interesting that it's called Leviathan, and in the lore, a Leviathan, this creature called the Leviathan, which is like a guardian of the light, meets Oryx and his sisters and soon to be brothers as they're going down to the deep to talk to the worm gods, the Ahamkara possibly, and then become like who they end up becoming and who you end up defeating. So I don't know if the Leviathan that they meet and the Leviathan that you're gonna see has anything to do with it, but if they are connected in some way, I think that's gonna be super interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if they're ready for a full-on story integration with the raid, but with guided games, it's definitely time. But at least give us the investigations that have been sprinkled throughout the worlds in the raid for more lore for us. Like, have Ghost be able to scan things and talk about them in between encounters, give us the ability to travel and make it explorable. Don't pull Crota on us. King's Fall had great exploration with hidden chests. Vault of Glass obviously had a sixth chest that we still need to find. So give us some exploration on the raid, and I'll be happy, I think.
Yeah,
Axis had, I forgot Axis was even a raid. It had good hidden chests too, a really good hidden chest, and the monitors and stuff. So yeah, do that.
Yeah, I mean, the Wrath of the Machine was really well built. It just got overshadowed by being at the end of the game's lifespan, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We're not unfortunately going to get anything as far as like Ghaul or like the finishing of a story here the same way like we got a finishing of a story or the finishing of like this quest line with King's Fall, which is why this remains my favorite raid. But hopefully we'll get something there. I know it deals with Cabal, and I know it is on like this thing called Leviathan, and I know the Leviathan has this city literally on top of its head, and you can see it from Nessus at certain points. If you look up, you can literally just see it, and it's massive. So I'm interested to go in there and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited, and if they're able to like go forward and bring any sort of lore or any sort of expansive storytelling to it, I will be more than happy, because
Tickled
when
pink.
it comes when it comes down to it, like even without the lore of King's Fall, or without the lore of the Vault of Glass or the Wrath of the Machine, it's just loosely connected. events going back and forth, and the challenge is fun, but the reason why you're doing it is adds a different level. It adds an added level of an added layer.
Here's a final touch on that. In Taken King, we went back into the vault because we got, was it Pradith's message?
Yes.
And we traveled the vault, listening and trying to find him. If that would have been in Vault of Glass while we were doing Vault of Glass, that's exactly what you're asking for, I think. If they would have combined those two into the raid, like still be Vault of Glass, but also have us looking for Pradith in the middle, and then we find his dead body, and then we go and kill Atheon as like a revenge. That's all I want.
That's something that we can hope for, and maybe if they listen, they can aspire to. But it's something that I want, but I don't think we're going to get at least this time.
Well, we'll find out, because we're definitely going to try and do that raid this week.
Yeah, and we'll let you know what we think and where we got, and if it handed it to us like the Nightfall did this week.
We're still going to 2-man that Nightfall.
Eventually.
So, with all that being said, this has been Destiny Underground. And as always, you guys can find us right here on YouTube. Your various podcast platforms, I believe iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And we're on the Towers Underground website, towersunderground.com, as well as other great content. We've got a couple podcasts on there if you're into football, if you're into a podcast where everybody just kind of talks, that's on there. We've got, 4 new shows on YouTube right now?
Yeah, multiple shows, as well as the podcasts are being uploaded in video content for all your YouTube Red users out there. So all of our content will be easily accessible on YouTube, as well as all your local podcasting preferences, as well as on the website. So you got a plethora of ways to find us.
Yeah, so be sure to get that discussion going down there. Let us know what we can improve on, how you guys want to see this evolve, and let's talk about Destiny. And until next time, eyes up, Guardians.